Good to be with you. I'm Katie Turn. New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch was blunt. Take away $187 million in federal funding from the NYPD for counterterrorism and risk a terrorist attack in the country's biggest city and the world's #1 terrorism target. A few weeks ago, we marked 24 years since 9/11, the deadliest attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor, with 2,977 lives lost. We were told to never forget. But is that exactly what's happening right now? Has the White House forgotten exactly why federal counterterrorism funds go to the NYPD? According to Commissioner Tisch, those dollars fund what she calls the backbone of the NYPD's effort to keep this city safe. They pay for bomb squads, heavy weapons patrols in sensitive areas, critical response teams at places of worship, radiation detection to stop a dirty bomb before it's detonated, intel analysts who uncover plots, camera systems, and training for active shooter attacks. The kind of monitoring and response the NYPD says has kept this city safe, kept people riding the subway, kept people feeling comfortable at sporting events, kept iconic locations like the Brooklyn Bridge protected, kept the stock exchange running, kept allowing everyone here to live their life free of the overwhelming anxiety that another 9/11 might be just around the corner. So why hold up that funding? Joining us now, NYPD Intelligence and Counterterrorism Deputy Commissioner Rebecca Weiner. Rebecca, it's really great to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm trying to make sense of this. The only sane answer that I can think of is that the White House has just forgotten, because to make this a political football, this funding for counterterrorism, does not sound sane. Am I wrong to suggest that?
Well, I think the point is counterterrorism cannot be a political issue. It's an issue that affects, of course, not just our city, but the country and the world. And these federal funds have been the lifeblood of our intelligence and counterterrorism program, which has done so much to protect our city and the country and the world.
But there's still federal dollars going to the FBI. There is a joint terrorism task force here in New York. Half of it is the FBI. Is that enough?
So additionally to those resources, which of course are necessary, integral to our protective response to all sorts of threats, not just terrorism, you have core funds that are separate from the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the FBI. These are funds that pay for our bomb squad to do their sweeps, our heavy weapons teams to go fortify perimeters around sensitive locations or houses of worship. For the UN General Assembly last week, anyone who was around Midtown would have seen these specially trained officers. Spectrometry equipment, chem bio rad nuclear detection and mitigation capabilities, physical barriers, target hardening that we do whenever there's a big event in town, or today on Yom Kippur around houses of worship. And near and dear to my heart, the intelligence analyst program, individuals who spend their days behind the scenes identifying the plot before it turns into an attack.
How often are you identifying plots?
All the time. So in addition to all of the thwarted attacks that we've had against our city, our team has flagged 150 actionable, operationalizable leads that have resulted in arrests or disruptions of other law enforcement activity to 8 states and 10 countries. So this isn't just about New York City. It really is a force multiplier in the counterterrorism space for all of the federal agencies.
So these are terrorist attacks that might not just be happening here in New York City. They might be attacks that are planned in other cities in this country and maybe other cities around the world?
Exactly. And those are federally funded programs that help get in front of that. So this is core to our strategy, which is all about prevention, preemption, mitigation.
It's been 24 years since 9/11. And I have to say, only occasionally do I think about that when I'm on the subway. Earlier in my lifetime here in New York City, when we were closer to that day, I would think about it quite a bit. As we've gotten farther away, it's not as top of mind. Should it be more top of mind now without this funding?
So I think really the hope is that it is not top of mind for New Yorkers going about their day-to-day business. That's our job, to keep it from the headlines, to keep it from being part of the public's consciousness. But that doesn't mean the threat is not there. We've got an incredibly chaotic, dynamic, and fast-paced threat environment. Over the weekend, you had 2 horrific incidents of targeted violence. You had an attack this morning in Manchester. Each time these happen, we look very closely and think to ourselves, what about that attack could create a vulnerability in New York or elsewhere? And how do we protect our city better? And what sort of force multiplier activity can we offer to our partners where it's happened?
So if you don't get this funding, she says, the commissioner says, it's not like New York's going to be safe tomorrow, not safe tomorrow, or not safe the next day, but in 6 months, it might not be as safe. We have FIFA, the World Cup, coming here to the tri-state area next summer. How do you keep that safe without that funding?
We have FIFA, we have the 250th birthday of the country, which is going to result in a big, certainly a high security event around ships coming from around the world into our harbor. But more proximately, we've got the Halloween parade, the Thanksgiving Day parade, New Year's Eve, and the list goes on and on. So these are major events that require this support in order to protect, especially given the threats.
If you do, this money is not just about New York City. Joining us now, former National Security Council Senior Director during the first Trump administration and former senior FBI and DHS official Javed Ali, former Assistant District Attorney at the Manhattan District DA's office and MSNBC legal analyst Catherine Christian, former New York State Homeland Security Advisor and Director at Redland Strategies Michael Balboni, and former NYPD Chief of Department Terry Monahan. Everybody, thank you. Terry, I want to begin with you. You know, this is not just money that goes to New York City. It's money that affects Long Island, money that affects Westchester, money that affects Albany. How does it hamper the efforts of the entire state?
More than just the entire state. You know, Rebecca, Commissioner Warren talked about 71 plots. Even though every one of these plots may have had a nexus into New York, they also involved other cities and states around the country, both red and blue. Plots and the individuals that were arrested because of the funding that the NYPD received prevented terrorist attacks, not only in New York, but throughout the United States. And taking this money away, it endangers Americans all across this country. I find it as catastrophic type cuts.
Catastrophic?
Really, keep all Americans in trouble.
Catastrophic. You think it's catastrophic?
Absolutely.
Michael Balboni, do you agree? Catastrophic?
After the days of 9/11, 2 programs were developed: urban area security initiatives and the Homeland Security grant programs. They were designed to prevent large-scale attacks. And it's fair to ask, after 24 years, have the threats evolved? Have they changed? Because right now what we see targeted violence. The question really becomes, how effective are these grants now? Should we be looking not only to restore them, but to evolve them? You know, 24 years later, we're not fighting the same type of enemy. We're not fighting the same type of threat. So, you know, a lot of these grants, by the way, have gone up and down in terms of their funding levels. Not the first time we've had a reduction. Nonetheless, New York City and New York State is always top of the list in the urban area threat matrix. So to say that you're not going to partner anymore, or you're going to stop and not have a plan to say what you would replace it with, it just
do you see this as playing politics?
There's definitely politics involved in this, whether or not this is a specific program or a specific cut designed to enforce politics. You know, you mentioned it before, and great questions about, is the immigration policy part of the national security? The White House will say, yes, it is.
Yeah.
And you're saying that they've made us safer as a result of the things that they've done. How does that fit into the general threat matrix itself for the city of New York? That's a very tough question.
Well, so my question would be, if you want to go after immigration because you think immigration is a national security threat, why would you take the money from the other national security efforts in order to try and force that?
Well, I believe, and I don't know this for a fact, but that the White House views this as kind of a fungible thing. In other words, if they take away federal dollars, the state and the city are not going to let the programs just winnow away. They're not going to happen. But again, that is not what we want to hear in the city of New York. We are still the top threat. We need to have that partnership, and we need to evolve the tactics that will prevent the next attack, whether it's a large-scale attack or a focused security attack.
Chief Monahan, I'm told that you are nodding vigorously to this.
Listen, any cuts at this point in time, New York has been a target. We've had other terrorist attacks. We had the West Side bike lane vehicle ramming. We had the Chelsea bombing. We had the suicide vest bomber in Penn Station. These are ones that were able to actually happen. There's a lot more that could have happened that because of this funding, it's great to say we can get this money from elsewhere, but we haven't. In 24 years, there's always a shortage of money. Are we going to say, well, there hasn't been an attack in a while? I was there on September 11th. I went to quite a few funerals, and we're still going to funerals today for people, first responders that went down there on 9/11. So as we come up to that 25th anniversary, let's not say we can relax any sort of money when it comes to counterterrorism.
So again, there is a partnership between the FBI and the NYPD on counterterrorism. Why is that partnership so important, Javed?
So, Katie, nice to be with you. And in my career in both Homeland Security and FBI, for counterterrorism in New York, the sort of number one sort of name of the game is NYPD because they have the most people on the streets here. And so that was always a joint collaboration between the federal side and NYPD.
It looks like yet another group of people need to pick up their fell for it again badges, right? We've seen like somebody backs Trump and then they either personally or, their industry or, their class of people get screwed by Trump. And, the memes are, they fell for it again, the fell for it again award meme. And now you can add police to that because police, look, obviously there wasn't specific scientific data of every police and how they voted, but most polls I saw in even blue areas were that members of law enforcement were usually heavily Republican and were certainly more Republican than the people of the communities they policed. Right? Maybe police in New York were less red than police in red states, but they were certainly more red than the average New Yorker. And now their budget's getting slashed. And here's the thing. I supported, and still do, I know it's not popular anymore, I am a supporter of the defund the police movement, in the sense that police budgets maybe shouldn't be eliminated, but should be substantively cut with the money reallocated to social services and other forms of conflict resolution that doesn't involve people getting popped with a gun, right? Like that's my belief, and that hasn't changed. But Donald does not believe that. Donald Trump, in his belief and in his expression, is that you got to give the cops money because the cops need to go out there to bust criminals. He believes in that. And so what Trump is doing under his own, put aside the Christo philosophy and what you might believe, and say maybe it's a good thing the cops get a little less money. Donald thinks the cops getting more money make things safe, and he thinks the cops getting less money make things unsafe. That's the argument he makes, and that's the argument a lot of his voters, pretty much all of his voters, believe. So what does it say that he's cutting the NYPD budget? In his mind, again, put aside your philosophy. In his mind and philosophy, he has just attacked New York police and made the city of New York less safe. Because again, if you cut police budgets, you make things unsafe under MAGA philosophy. So keep this in mind. Anybody who backs Trump, except for the billionaire class, will get purposely screwed by him. And even the billionaires are getting accidentally screwed because Trump's tariffs are so dumb. But everybody, unless you're a billionaire, Trump's going to come for you. Even the police, it seems.